So what's the house worth? Hey, it's Brad from probateresource.com. So at Probate Resource, we're a real estate solutions company specializing in the world of probate and inheritance properties. We buy properties for cash all over the US, and we have a fantastic network of real estate agents we work with that are probate and inheritance specialists that can help you get your property sold. So today I want to talk about what the house is worth. A lot of times, a family or an estate will reach out to us. They're looking to sell their estate property and they don't really know what it's worth. They can go look at Zillow, and sometimes, we'll make an offer to somebody and they say, well, Zillow says my house is worth X. And you have to take Zillow's estimates with a grain of salt. Sometimes they're spot on and sometimes they're way off, right? And what I would say is that if you are in a cookie cutter neighborhood, cookie cutter houses, all the houses are very, very similar size, similar style, similar number of bedrooms and bathrooms and all that stuff. Zillow's pretty accurate on that. I would say very, very close, within 5%, within 2 to 5% accuracy. But what Zillow can't see is the condition of the house. Zillow's algorithm just strictly works off of, square footage in the tax records, bedrooms and bathrooms, other comparable sales in the neighborhood based off of their bedrooms, bathrooms, blah, blah, blah. Zillow doesn't look at the pictures, can't look at condition, can't look at the upgrades that are done, can't look at all the things, right? So it's not always accurate. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's way off, right? The best way to determine what a property's worth is what real estate agents and brokers and appraisers use to appraise a house, which is looking at comparable sales. They look at comparable houses, right? You have to choose houses that are like for like. You can't compare your 1,500 square foot ranch built in 1965 that has never been upgraded ever since 1965 and still has the shag carpet in it. You can't compare that to a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2-story traditional house built in 1995 with a basement and a 2-car detached garage, like a half a mile away. Those are not comparable properties. They're not the same. Or maybe your neighbor down the street has a brick ranch, 1960s, but they've completely renovated it. Everything's new. The kitchen's been updated. The bathrooms have been updated. The shag carpet's been taken out. It's hardwood floors throughout. The exterior's in good shape. It's got a new roof, new HVAC. It has a finished basement. It has a swimming pool in the back and blah, 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 blah. Has all these things that your house doesn't have. You can't compare your neighbor's house down the street to your house. It has to be like for like. Similar bedrooms, similar bathrooms, similar conditions, similar, features and blah, blah, blah. That's what appraisers do. And appraisers make adjustments for the difference. So basically what an appraiser does is they go out and they find comparable sales or as close to they can get to comparable. It also has to be recent sales. They really would prefer to do things in the past 6 months so that they stay in the same market cycles. Market cycles change. And in the last 12 to 14 months, the real estate market has contracted a lot, and what houses were selling for 2 years ago is completely different to what houses are selling for today. The market has slowed down significantly as interest rates went up. Prices have pulled back a little bit. We've been selling things for a little bit less than what we had originally anticipated selling them for, just because the market's adjusting as we speak. You're probably starting to see some headlines about that. Honestly, the news headlines about the real estate market tend to lag by, I would say, about 6+ months. What you're seeing the news talking about today about the real estate market was really stuff that was happening like 6 months ago. They're not on the up and up. And this market can change very, very, very quickly. I've seen it happen just in the span of like a month. Things have slowed down and then all of a sudden open back up just like that. For example, a couple weeks ago, I would say now 3 weeks ago now, interest rates, had gotten up to as high as 8%. And then all of a sudden rates kind of started coming down a little bit. And literally like 3 weeks ago, we had properties that have been sitting stagnant on the market with no activity, no showings for weeks at a time. No one was interested in, and mind you, these properties were priced right. They looked beautiful. There was nothing wrong with them. We fixed everything. They showed showed well, they were staged, you name it, right? We had great photographs, and they were just sitting on the market because the rates got so high, everyone was like, nope, not buying. And they closed up shop, right? And then all of a sudden, rates came down a little bit. And all of a sudden, just like one weekend, we started getting we didn't do anything to the listing. All of a sudden, we start getting showings, and we got one under contract and actually closing on it next week that had been sort of stagnant on the market for a little while. It was quite an interesting phenomenon. So these sort of things happen in real estate. So an appraiser is going to look at most recent sales because most recent sales are going to be most indicative of what the market's doing at that particular time. They might go back a little bit further. They might go back a year. They're also going to stay within as close of a radius as they can to your property. They would prefer to stay in the same neighborhood. So if your property's in a neighborhood or a subdivision, if at all possible, they are going to try to pull comps from your immediate neighborhood because more than likely your house is very similar to your neighbor's house down the street. It's unlikely that they're going to go far away and pull comps if you have comps in the immediate neighborhood. Now, if there are no recent sales in your neighborhood in particular in a very long amount of time, but there's one maybe a mile down the road, it's pretty similar, they might use that and then make some adjustments. They're going to pay attention to the neighborhood and the amenities and the access. They're going to look at, if you're right next to a highway, your house is going to be worth less than the house, a quarter mile away that's not right next to the highway. If you are on a busy street, they're going to take that into account. If your house has what they call functional obsolescence, right? It's basically just outdated. It's an older house. It doesn't have the same modern updates. They're going to take that into account in the value. They're going to look at condition. If your house is in disrepair and needs a lot of work, they're going to take that into account. You can't compare your neighbor's house down the street who's, totally renovated their house over the last 10 years since they bought it and redone the bathroom and redone the kitchens and redone the this and redone the that and all this is new. It's not comparable to maybe your mom's house that was built around the same time, but your parents never updated the house ever. Like it still has shag carpet in it. You can't use that as a comparable sale. That is not a comparable property. So you have to kind of take those things into account and look at the sales in the neighborhood and compare their house to yours. And sometimes we get people that say, well, my house is better than my neighbor's. And we say, well, why is it better? Well, because we have this fountain in the backyard that my dad spent $20,000 on, this beautiful fountain. And, nobody else has this beautiful fountain. Well, very unique things like that don't really add any value to a house unless you find a very specific buyer who likes that fountain. And if the buyers coming and looking at it don't like the fountain, they're not going to put any value in that fountain in the backyard that your dad spent $20,000 building. It's probably a beautiful fountain, right? Your dad probably put his blood, sweat, and tears into this fountain, but the reality is that fountain probably didn't add much value to the house. So you have to kind of look at what people would perceive that thing to be worth to them. Also, swimming pools. Swimming pools are a big hit or miss. Swimming pools can either detract from the value or add to the value of the house depending on the buyer. A lot of buyers see swimming pools as a burden. It's something they have to take care of, either take care of themselves or they have to pay someone to take care of this pool. Or the buyers look at it as a liability, right? A safety liability. If they have little kids, maybe they don't want their kids to drown. Or maybe some people really like swimming pools and they really want a swimming pool, in which case they would put value in that particular thing. Also, if you're in an area like, for example, in Florida, like everybody and their brother has a swimming pool because it's hotter than Hades down there. And, everybody's got a swimming pool in their backyard. And if you don't have a swimming pool, well, that appraisal or that valuation might come in a little bit lower on your house compared to your other neighbors because they all have pools and you don't. It's got to be homogeneous, right? You got to be similar to the houses in your area. And if you have a very unique house, the value of that house might be low on an appraisal, but you could find that one buyer who really loves your house and they're willing to pay you cash for it because they love your house and they love your dad's fountain in the backyard. But remember, when you're selling a property on the market, generally we try to appeal to the broadest amount of buyers as we can. You know, everyone jokes about the gray walls and the neutral walls and the this and the that, and we put the sort of very neutral stuff. The reason that we put neutral stuff in a property is because we're trying to appeal to the largest audience, because the more potential offers you get, the quicker your house is going to sell and the more it might sell for. If you have a very unique house that you've got to wait around for that really super unique buyer that likes your super unique taste, it might take a long time, or you may never find that buyer at all, ever, because some other people might not see your unique taste as being their taste, and they may not like it. So that's why when we do properties, we kind of neutralize the properties, right? I've bought properties with crazy colorful walls and all the things, right, that I'm sure they spent a lot of time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears painting all these walls, and they loved it, and it was great for them. But the next guy that buying it might not like that. So they might not put value in it. So you have to think about things like that. So if you're getting a property ready for sale on the market, if you're going to list it on the market and you're trying to appeal to the broadest amount of buyers, you're going to have to neutralize it. You're going to have to clean it. People like smells. Make sure it smells. I'm going to give you a little piece of advice here too. We encounter this quite a good bit. In fact, I've got a property that I'm going to here in about 30 minutes after this video. I've already been to it once. I'm going to sit down with the person to kind of present some options. And this person has smoked in this house for a number of years. If you have a house that's been smoked in, you need to detract value from that house, because a lot of people do not like the smell of cigarette smoke. And in our experience, if we get a smoker's house, it costs us thousands and thousands of dollars to try to remove that smell from that house. And many times it's extremely difficult to remove that cigarette smell from a house that's been smoked in for a number of years. I bought one a few years ago, and it just reminds me, literally this house went back up for sale. I bought it, kind of redid it, sold it to a young couple, gosh, probably when was that? 2018, I think. I mean, it's a number of years ago, right? 4 or 5 years ago. And now they just listed the property for sale the other day. That house was a smoker's house. And man, it was tough for us to get that smell out of that house. We kills the walls with oil-based kills. We brought in air scrubbers. We even washed the walls down with soap to get the tar out of the walls. We ran these air scrubbers in there twice. I had to clean all the ductwork out. We had to replace part of the air handler because it was just, the smell was just embedded in everything in that house. We had to prime the insides of the cabinets and the drawers and all that stuff, because that smoke just permeates everywhere in the house and gets everywhere. And it's so difficult to get that smell out of a house. And a lot of buyers don't like that smell. So if you have a smoker's house, I would say you should immediately reduce your price by $10,000. And also understand that if you have a smoker's house, a lot of people are going to go do the viewing and they're going to walk in the front door and they're going to smell that smell and they're going to turn around and walk right back out. And they're not even going to look at the house. Could be the most beautiful house in the world, but because they walk in and they smell that cigarette smoke smell, they're going to turn around and walk right out the door and they're not even going to look at it. You immediately just reduced your potential buyer pool significantly because of a funny smell. Or maybe it smells like mold. Maybe there's some mildew issues in the house. Funny smells drive people away. Crazy colors, weird things, certain amounts of disrepair. Like if there are big ticket items, like it needs a new roof, it needs new HVAC, it's got cracks in the foundation. I could go on all day about those. I've even had properties that had literally very minor cracks that were settlement cracks from 30, 40, 50 years ago that I had an engineer evaluate, and they said these are just settlement cracks. They've probably been here for 30, 40 years. I've had buyers run to the hills and run away from these houses like, no, I don't want to buy a foundation problem. And it's like, well, the foundation's actually fine. Like, here's an engineer letter we have. People are weird about that. Power lines, all the different things affect the value. So if you're trying to sell a house, honestly, your best bet is to reach out to a real estate professional to get their opinion as to what it's worth. If you don't want to mess with any of that, reach out to investors like us. We'd be happy to make you a cash offer. If you don't want to clean the property out, you don't want to mess with it, you don't want to fix anything, we buy properties like that all the time, full of all the stuff. Take out what you want, take out your keepsakes and your memories and stuff like that. Leave the rest of the junk behind and sell it to us as is. We literally do that all the time. But if you are going to list it out on the market with an agent, you want to get it ready for sale, you want to clean it out, you want to clean it, clean up the yard a little bit, make it a little bit presentable. If you want to sell it as a fixer-upper, that's fine, but you need to make sure that you're pricing it accordingly. You can't sell your fixer-upper house the same as the guy down the street who has nothing needs to be done to it. So keep that in mind. Well, I hope this helps you out. I know it was a long video. I talked about a lot, but this is kind of a complicated subject. It's not as cut and dry as most people think. So in many cases, people will call us and say, well, what are you going to offer me on my house? What's my house worth? And our answer is we don't make offers over the phone because I can't, until I've seen your house, I can't properly evaluate what it's worth. Now, there are real estate investors in our industry that will make you an offer over the phone, and they will make you a sight unseen offer. But in my experience, and I know a lot of these people who do this, generally speaking, that offer they make you is not a real offer. They're going to change that offer. They will make you that offer. It's sort of bait and switch, bait you in, and then they're going to come out and they're going to look at it and they're going to say, no, we need to knock like $30,000, $40,000 off the price for X, Y, and Z. Even the big iBuyers you see online, they do the same thing. That instant offer you get on the internet about your house is not a real offer. 90+% of the time, what they actually buy the house for versus what they offered you on that internet offer is not the same price. Trust me. I've been in this industry for years. I understand this. So at our company, we like to actually go look at a house first and evaluate it and make you that real, honest, accurate offer up front and not jerk you around. So I hope that helps you out. Again, I'm Brad with probateresource.com. If you're interested in working with our company, go to probateresource.com. There's a form there on the website, or you can call the phone number on the website. Like I said, we buy properties for cash, or we can refer you to one of our probate inheritance real estate agent specialists all over the country in your specific market and help you get your property sold. So thanks for checking out this video today. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.